Okay, welcome to the second part, sampling and surveys. We're going to talk about inference. So inference is the process of drawing conclusions about a population on the basis of sampling data. So we take some sampling, we look at the data, and then we draw some conclusions or make some inferences about what's going on in the population based on the sample that we're looking at. Margin of error is information about the sample that sets bounds on the size of the likely error. So we take a look at the data and based on how widely distributed it is, what its range is, and then how large of a sample size it is, we can tell what type of error we might expect or how large that error might be. The larger, by the way, the larger the sample size is, the less the margin of error is in general. All right, so let's talk about what can go wrong in surveys. All right, so the first is we can get undercoverage. That occurs when some groups in the population are left out of the process of choosing the sample. So we might, in a random sample, we might, just the way the random generator works, we might get more Asians and less Caucasians than we would get if we were to stratify and sample. Non-responses occur when an individual chosen for the sample can't be contacted or refuses to participate. We talked about this. Response bias, systematic pattern of incorrect answers provided because of the way that you're asking the question or who is asking the question. So for example, if I walked up to you directly and asked you if you've ever cheated on an AP stats test, then I am influencing a response bias because you're less likely to respond with a truthful answer to that question when I'm there than if you were to respond to that question anonymously, perhaps at some other point in time after you're done with the course. So response bias is a way of skewing the data by inappropriately asking the questions, both in terms of the way that they're asked, the person who is asking them, and the timing of the request. Okay, so wording of questions can be leading, so you have to be careful about the way that the questions are worded. So sometimes you need to leave information out because information might bias the person who's taking the survey. So you can see if I were to word the question, should illegal immigrants be prosecuted and deported, 69% of the people who were sampled said yes. But if I rephrase it, should illegal immigrants who have worked in the U.S. for 2 years keep their jobs and be eligible for legal status, then that answer is 62%. So you can see the range of responses based on the type of question that's being asked. All right, and how it's being asked. All right, also order of questions is important, and that sometimes may influence response bias. So here's a question: how many dates have you had in the last month? First, and second, how happy are you with your life in general? And when the order is 1, 2, meaning the first question and the second question, then there's a correlation between 1 and 2. People have had more dates, then they're happier with their life. But if the questions are asked in reverse, 2 then 1, how happy are you with your life? And then how many dates have you been on? Then there's no correlation. So you can see that asking the first question first ends up biasing the second question. So you have to be careful about the order of the questions, and sometimes you want to randomize the order to eliminate that bias, or at least consider the type of questions and then order them appropriately so that you're not eliciting some type of unnecessary response. All right, this brings us to classwork 4.1.3. Study called the Height Report claimed that 70% of women had extramarital affairs after 5 years of marriage. The survey was sent to 100,000 women and 4,500 responded. What is the non-response rate for the study and how might it have affected the results? And then question number 2, New York Times survey in 2010 found 66% of the people sampled said they supported universal health care. Similar study conducted by Fox News found that only 44% supported universal health care. Why is there a difference? All right. So that's going to bring us to the end of class. Thanks for joining us in our discussion about sampling and surveys. That was your third out of, that was your third out of 3 classwork problems. Here it is again. Please join us when we talk about experiments in the next section of Chapter 2.